Hey friends, this is Aretha. As we get close to wrapping up this year, have you considered what small self-experiments you can do before the end of December? This might be the perfect time to try a few things you've been thinking about for a while. The beauty with doing small self-experiments is that it's a non-threatening, non-committal, and maybe even fun way to temporarily step into a version of you that you have been imagining. And once you try it on, you can decide if your assumptions were accurate. Doing small self-experiments is a great way to provide clarity on what works for you and provide some closure on things that you thought would be fun but are not so. By doing these experiments now, you can set much better goals in the new year. When we set goals, sometimes we are too vague, which makes it really hard to act on what we want. On the flip side, we also set goals with a very rigid understanding of how we will get the end results. But there's usually more than one way to get to the same outcome. Setting mini experiments right now is the perfect way to explore your options. Maybe one of your vague goals is that you want to be more active and exercise more. But in the past, your idea of exercising had always been to run outside. And maybe you even secretly don't enjoy running. By setting mini experiments to try cycling, kickboxing, tennis, or even swimming, you can get some clarity now on the type of exercise that aligns better with you and feels like fun. And once you know what works best for you, you can set a much better goal in the new year and increase the chances that you will be consistent. Exercise is always an easy example because a lot of us can relate to it. But there are probably other areas that you are interested in exploring. If you mostly work from home and love the idea of working out of a coffee shop or a co-working space a couple days a week, maybe you can experiment by going to different places around your city. This experiment will require you to organize yourself a little bit differently when you work away from home, and it will force you out of your comfort zone. Once you've tried a few places, you can decide if this concept lives up to the hype. If it doesn't, then you can just let it go. And if it does, now you have a list of favorite places you would like to go back to. Think about what has been on your mind that you have been delaying until someday that never comes. Maybe you have always been curious about meditation, or you have been intrigued at the idea of trying a sensory deprivation tank. Or you're simply curious about joining your local Toastmaster group. Why not set up mini experiments to try those things? Think about the routines and the behaviors you would like to establish. Maybe you want to start dressing better for work. Or maybe you want to dress differently altogether. Why not set a mini experiment to try different looks with what you already have in your closet? But don't just play dress up in your closet. Wear these looks out and test them out in the real world. And if you don't like what's already in your closet, maybe you can go thrifting and try on new aesthetics without breaking the bank. Imagine stepping into the new year with a brand new sense of style. By temporarily stepping into a different version of yourself through these experiments, you can explore different options and find what aligns with you the best. Treat these experiments as a game and collect data so you can make informed decisions. You don't have to commit to anything long term. You are just having fun and trying on different things to see what sticks. Some of your experiments will fail. You will discover that things you thought would be fun and exciting are actually boring and tedious. You may find that some of the glamorized trends don't really live up to the hype. Or you will conclude that something that works really well for someone else just doesn't work for you, and that's okay. A failed experiment will give you a little bit of closure. You will be able to let go of this idea you had and move on to something else, something much better. These are your own experiments, so you get to set your own rules. But as you set your own parameters for your experiments, there are two things I strongly recommend you consider. The first is that you should decide ahead of time how many trials it will take for you to collect enough data. So going back to the example about meditation, in order to truly assess if meditation is for you, you probably need to do it more than once. So before starting, decide. Maybe you do 5 minutes 5 days in a row, Monday through Friday. Once you decide on a minimum number of trials or attempts, stick to it. Do it long enough to collect sufficient data so you can make an informed decision. If you half-ass your experiment, you just won't have enough information to truly decide if it is for you. And that'll be a waste of your time. Depending on what you are experimenting with, be clear on how many times you commit to trying. My second recommendation is that you write down your impression after every single trial or attempt. It doesn't have to be very long, just a few notes about how you felt physically and mentally before and after the event. Be sure to note anything that felt much easier than you anticipated or harder than you anticipated. Maybe you really enjoyed the kickboxing workout, but you didn't like the instructor. It shouldn't take you more than a a few minutes to jot down your notes. The first time you try something new, you may feel too uncomfortable or too out of place to truly enjoy the activity. That's why going more than once is important so you can really gauge if it fits with you. And that's why keeping notes every single time you go can give you a fuller picture of what is really going on. Then when you've completed your experiment, review all your notes and decide how you feel about the activity. I hope you have a lot of fun experimenting over the next couple of months. Please share this video with anyone who would enjoy doing small self-experiments to improve their life. Give me a thumbs up on this video, and if you haven't already, remember to subscribe.